Hi, this is Ren,
This is Casey.
and this is All Walks of Film.
So we just saw Life, pretty much just because I wanted to see it, because I saw you wouldn't watch any of the trailers, and I would watch the trailers and I was like, yes, because all I saw was the hand thing, and that's all I'm gonna say. It's the hand thing. I was like, okay, sold. Which that's led me astray before. I had that moment with Bone Tomahawk where I saw like this super intense scalping scene, and I was like, fuck yeah, I'm watching that movie. And then that scene was like the only decent scene in the whole movie. And this movie had really, really shit reviews.
Yeah,
Like
I
half
actually,
stars, 1 star, 2-star reviews.
yeah, I wasn't looking forward to it just because, of the negative reviews, but then I kind of thought about things, and on
And
this
it's
channel,
a Sony movie. That didn't help. I literally almost turned it off when I saw the Sony logo. I was like, oh, whoops, never mind.
yeah, but on this channel, we have had pretty tremendously different opinions on movies. Like, we don't like movies that everybody praises, and in this case, we like a movie that everybody else seems to be shitting on.
Yeah,
So,
and to be fair, I like it pretty okay. I'm not saying this is great. And the fact that it is an Alien knockoff, like, there's no getting around that. Yes, it is. But I'm gonna argue that it's a better Alien knockoff than most of the actual Alien movies. So, I don't understand. Because it seems like a lot of people are just willing to give the Alien franchise movies a pass because they're actually called Alien, so they don't really care, even though they're shit.
yeah, unfortunately, I haven't watched all of the Alien franchise movies. I've seen Alien versus Predator. I'm talking about outside of Alien and Aliens. I've seen Alien versus Predator, and I've seen Prometheus. I haven't seen Alien Covenant, and I haven't seen Alien 3 and 4.
But here's the thing, not most, maybe about half of the reviews that I've read are claiming that this movie is super stupid and really dumb and doesn't make any sense and doesn't make any, like, logical, physical sense, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, compared to Prometheus? Really?
Yeah, in this film, I paid very close attention and tried to essentially sin the movie anytime I could.
And it's not perfect. There are a couple of things that don't make sense. Like, the only review that I saw that actually pointed out something that made sense was the alien originally can't subsist, like, it can't live in our atmosphere. It has to be in a very specific sort of environment. And then once introduce more elements of our atmosphere and correct the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide to more match what was actually on the space station, that's when the creature went into hibernation. And then that just was, like, not an issue for the rest of the movie. It's like, okay, yes, that's a decent point.
But I think that also speaks to the aliens' power to constantly evolve to adapt. I mean, essentially adapt to its environment. Like, the fact that it's, consuming elements of the humans, though we don't really know exactly what they're doing inside the body. I mean, I know that, they're feeding, but, like, we don't know exactly what's going on. And, like, unfortunately, we don't have that. So if you want to send the movie on that's a fair point to make.
Well, and another one is it seems to live off of, I mean, this is just one I noticed. It seems to live off of blood and coolant.
Yeah, the coolant part's a little weird.
Yeah, it's like, okay, sure, it's an alien. It can live off of coolant, but it's also like a predator that needs to live off of blood and muscle and sinew and insides. Which one is it?
Yeah, so that was a little unclear, and I get that that's, like, one of those things, but, like, at the same time, it's like, given the fact that, at least to my knowledge, what do the xenomorphs need to feed on? Like they just kind of, I mean, like, you have the face hugger thing at the beginning, so, like, there's the parasitic aspect there, but, like,
and the chest burster,
that whole thing, yeah.
Exactly.
But, like, so you get the parasitic nature of that, but how does how does the alien actually subsist like after that? Like what does the alien need? I mean,
because the aliens don't have like an infinite supply of humans to eat for like as long as they've been around or whenever the humans aren't there.
Right. And it's one of those things where like it's one of you don't pay a lot of attention to it because you're just like, wow, this is crazy. This is alien. So like we don't think about it. But this movie actually tried to think of more ideas with that. Like it essentially took that alien, that like very first part of the alien concept, and tried to expand it, which I actually think is an admirable goal to like try to like tackle like what an alien life form that's, you know, constantly adjusting to its environment would actually be, instead of, you know, saying, oh, it's the unknown, which we so often get. I mean, like The Thing is a movie that pretty much that's what it is. How does The Thing make sense in any way, shape, or form? Oh, it's an alien. We'll just like, you know,
it's The Thing though. That's the excuse. It's The Thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there are some rules in The Thing, but like The Thing breaks its own rules, like within the movie. And I'm not sinning The Thing, because The Thing is absolutely amazing.
But if you're talking about how this movie doesn't make any sense, the movie does initially say, okay, well, biologically speaking, it's made out of these components, and even I, with my like extraordinarily basic high school level understanding of biology, can follow it and see that it actually makes sense and they're not just like pulling shit out of their asses. And then all of the rules about The Thing, like the Calvin, the alien, stay pretty consistent throughout the whole film, except for the atmosphere thing, which maybe I missed something, because this is a movie where I was actually paying a lot of attention to the exposition, but almost everything in the movie is exposition, and at the point where you're learning a lot about Calvin, there's a lot of overlapping dialogue. It maybe something was missed there, maybe that's a problem.
To my understanding, they incorporated those elements, and then it essentially died, and then they had to resuscitate it back to life using jolts.
It was alive. What had happened was they had a specimen, and initially they have a little containment unit where they can control the atmosphere.
Right.
And initially they tried to simulate the atmosphere of Mars where they found it, and for some reason that didn't work. And we don't really know why that doesn't work. Then they tried to adjust it to be more like a prehistoric era on Earth, like a Paleozoic, I think is what they said. And they adjusted the atmosphere that way, and that's what started bringing it to life. Then they tried to slowly adjust it to be more like our atmosphere, like the atmosphere that was actually on the spaceship, and once that happened, it started going into hibernation. It wasn't dead, but it wasn't moving. But they have a ticking, like they can't bring it back to Earth. They have to study it on the space station, which makes sense. But they can't be there for forever. They've already been there for 25 days at this point. Their doctor is already starting to have a lot of health problems. He's gonna have to go back home really soon. A lot of them are talking about how like they're gonna have to go home very, very shortly, so they have to bring this thing out of hibernation or else they can't do experiments on it. So they attempt to use electricity to awaken it, and at first it doesn't work, but then it works, but it makes the creature hostile.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that like it does seem to be tackling that idea of nature versus nurture and all that kind of stuff. And you know, it's possible that this creature might not have been as hostile as it was if we didn't initially do that, but that it's hard to tell.
Well, also they do talk about how it's not like the creature hates us or anything. It just needs to kill us to survive. But then later, one of the women's like, I hate this thing. I wanted to die. Which, you know, there's some, like, interesting, very shallow philosophical ideas to be had there, I guess. But that's not one of the stronger parts of the movie. But I will say that one of the one thing people point out a lot is like there's not a lot of character development. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it's one
that's
of
true.
it's one of those things where, you know, not every movie has to be a character piece, and also given the amount of time that they have, having a ton of character development wouldn't be realistic to the situation. It helps us, the viewers, but it's not realistic in, you know, that sort of situation. I mean, we can't have every movie be The Breakfast Club.
That's true. But what I will say is it was really nice to see that everybody had their job and everyone actually did need to be there and that everybody did their job. And essentially, as the movie is going on, every single person is dying to protect everyone else on the ship and then to eventually protect everybody on Earth.
Yeah, and also drawing parallels to The Thing, you know, I understand that they kind of built their characters because they were, you know, in enclosed spaces and they weren't really doing anything, so that like gives the opportunity to do that. And you could argue, oh, well, you know, you should have done that, but I'm going to forgive the movie on this one.
Well, and here's the thing. Whenever everybody was following procedures and protocols as best they could for most of the movie, and when people were doing something that seems stupid, it was usually because we, the audience, and like one or two of the characters in the movie know something that that person doesn't know.
Yeah, and I like the fact that the movie actually clearly states that. I mean, granted, there are plenty of people in the audience that didn't pay that close attention.
There's a lot of exposition in the movie.
Yeah,
sure.
Which of course the movie could have used less of. But
I don't know how. You kind of needed all of that, or else it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and then people start sinning it even more than they already are.
Which is why, like, I did see one review that said that this is a movie for people with little attention spans, and I'm like, actually, you need to pay a lot of attention, or else it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Also, there are several people in the movie that have pretty thick accents. Like, they're not.
Oh, that's true.
They're not accents that you can't understand. It's just there are certain people with certain accents that, like, it's one of those things where you have to super focus onto what they're saying or else you kind of like lose it. I don't know. I have that for myself sometimes, you know, especially when you have people from like the Eastern European regions talking. Mm-hmm. I'm just not familiar with speaking with people from those areas, so it's harder for me to understand than, you know, even like a Cockney accent.
Right. But a lot of things in the movie that seem to make a lot of sense, like when Ryan Reynolds goes into the containment area, he waits until Calvin is in the little mouse unit and is distracted by something else. That was actually the right thing to do in that situation. You know, at one point, Sho is about to go into the air vent where Calvin is, but he doesn't know that. And he also doesn't know that the spaceship that's onboarding, that's preparing to shoot them out into deep space, is in there to save them. He sees that and he's like, yes, I'm gonna be saved. And he goes straight there. He doesn't know these things.
Also, when they try to like flame out the creature, like, given what we understand about parasites, which this creature clearly is, you know, fire usually works. Fire usually works with 99% of animals on Earth. In fact, actually, no, probably 100% of animals on Earth. You know, you throw a flame at them, they're going to die. Right. So, that being said, what he did at first was understandable. I get that, like, later on when he sort of had a personal vendetta against the creature, when he was constantly trying to attack the creature even when he knew that wasn't working.
Are you talking about Ryan Reynolds?
Yes.
But here's the thing, he kept missing.
He got it a couple times. Like, there was one time where you could see that the creature...
Yeah, there was one time, but that was after a while.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could see that as, well, okay, I didn't get it long enough or something like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, yeah. Like, I'm just... It's one of those things where, like, I'm just trying to, like... And maybe some people in the comments can, you know, write what you thought the issue was with this, but I really don't think that this movie was as weak as like some of the reviews said it is. And now, granted, it is in the positive of Rotten Tomatoes, and yes, I don't like the Rotten
Tomatoes is weird. They count like a 2.5 review as fresh, or a 2 out of 5 review as fresh.
Yeah, and there were people who did like this movie, and there were people who didn't. And like, I get that if you are in love with the movie Alien, which most of us are, how you could see this movie and see it as just, you know, kind of a carbon copy. I would say that it kind of takes some of the more interesting elements at the beginning of Alien and kind of expands on them, which I think is interesting because...
And then there's the ending, which is awesome. Even a lot of negative reviews I saw said that the ending was good. And even I was just like, wait, what happened? Wait, that happened? What the fuck? It was actually a really good ending.
Yeah,
I was pretty surprised because I knew it was gonna be something like that, but it did a good job of confusing you in like a positive way until it was like, oh.
Yeah, I honestly would like to see more of this.
I would watch a sequel.
What's funny is if you're familiar with the original trailer for Alien 3, this movie essentially sets up what you wanted to see in Alien 3.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see that happening. And to be fair, we haven't had that movie.
I mean, we've had movies with like alien predators like coming down on Earth and all that kind of stuff, but like not part of like the Alien series and not like similar to that. I mean,
really? The only one I can think of is Arrival, which A, I hate, and B, is not really very similar to this at all. So.
Okay, well, there's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's several movies like in the 50s and stuff like that.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm with you
like,
now.
So there are elements of that, but it would be interesting to see like what this creature kind of like evolves into, because like I'm pretty sure that this isn't its final form.
Right. Which, speaking of, I like the form a lot. It reminds me a lot of an octopus, where, you know, it's all brain and all muscle and all nerve throughout its whole physical body. The only thing I don't like is, I don't like that it has a face, and I think a lot of people actually don't like that it doesn't have enough of a face.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that... one of the things that I've heard that people talk about, like aliens and like connections and all that kind of stuff, is like the further and further you take a creature away from like the concept of like what we understand like biological life to be, the more and more people are alienated from it. And this movie tried to kind of have it both ways. I kind of liked that it didn't really have a face, but it kind of did.
Yeah, it doesn't like have a mouth, but it has something that kind of looks like it, which is a little odd. I don't know what the point of it is, but...
I think it's to give it something a little bit more recognizable. Now, in it being recognizable, there are some parallels that you can make with its design to the aliens in the movie Independence Day. The faces of the aliens in that movie.
I just think it looks like Edis from Gamera 3.
I totally thought of Iris.
It totally looks like Edis from Gamera 3. Like,
I also thought of Orga a little bit with its face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But I mostly like that they took an idea of something you would find in deep sea and put it in deep space instead, because that actually makes some sense based off of the scientific knowledge that we do have.
Yeah, and we don't know a lot about deep sea life.
Yeah, we don't know about most of ocean life.
Which I know James Cameron.
Down there.
I know James Cameron's trying to go down there and check out all the stuff, but
because he's looking for the bar so he can raise it.
But I would really like to see a movie similar to this, but like actually tackle like alien sea life.
That would be really sweet. Like if he did like alien underwater sort of thing.
And yes, I know that there's a movie that James Cameron did called Aliens of the Abyss, which is kind of about like deeper sea life, but like we haven't there's still a lot to explore on our own planet, which is not to say that like alien life isn't something that we should be interested in. I I highly doubt that it's going to be something like this film, but you know, it's kind of how science fiction works. You know,
Right.
have we ever seen? I'm trying to think. Have we ever seen a movie where like alien life is neutral?
No, not really. But
Usually it's like alien life comes down, they're
But
trying to
this is
help
the
us, or they're
closest.
trying to like kill us. And
But this is the closest because it's like chaotic neutral where it's just I do what works for me. And what works for me is eating you. And that's just natural.
yeah, now
He's
I
not like
understand.
targeting the humans because any philosophical or moral reason. He's just targeting the humans the same way he targets the coolant system. He's a scavenger. That's it.
Yeah, and I understand that like there is kind of a desire to see like alien life in movies, and you know,
Thinks that they're all going to be sentient and
animal
better than us.
Well, there's that, but there's also like make them more animal like, so like they're interested and then they're bored and like all that kind of stuff. We don't see that a lot in movies. You know, we usually see animals in life with like goals and stuff in mind. Now, I will say that like if you were going to send the movie on something, I think it was a little odd that the alien was able to understand that the tool that was placed inside of its container could poke through the hole of the glove.
That was a little ridiculous because, like, I could see that it could get there eventually, but I don't see how that was its first response.
Yeah, it would have made more sense if the creature just tried to go through it.
It did. It tried to go through the glove, and then it came back, and it broke the wand in half and tried to poke it.
Yeah, but
But
like,
I don't-
why would it break the wand in half? Why wouldn't it just try to use the wand? Because, like, technically speaking, if you put enough pressure, just like it is, then it could break it.
Well, I could kind of see
And given the
how-
fact how strong it is as well, you know, it should have been able to break the the rubber regardless, even without that.
It wouldn't, but I could kind of see more of, like, if it took the wand being, you know, half broken like it was, and tried to poke through the glove, and while it was trying to, like, poke through the glove with the electric end, or maybe even, like, the butt end, because I don't think it would be able to tell the difference, and where it's splintering in the middle, started to break off and accidentally poke through the glove, that would probably make a lot more sense. And still be pretty quick for it to accomplish, but
Yeah.
but then everything though was fairly consistent. You know, it said this is what the thing is, and then the thing behaved that way. You know, they said, okay, this is our mission. We act in accordance to the mission. We lay down every kind of safety protocol we can, and at the end of the day, we're all committed to it killing all of us in order to not make it to Earth.
Yeah. Now, if you were going to also criticize the fact that the characters didn't have much character development and all that kind of stuff, I can't tell you who anybody's name is in the movie, which, you know, you can. But that's
I literally only know show's name, and that's because at one point there was a subtitle to go with it.
yeah. But that's my problem with a lot of things. You know, I just don't I don't remember names in movies and shows and all that kind of stuff. No.
I couldn't tell you the name of anybody from Kong Skull Island. I can tell you the actors, but I can't tell you like the actual character names.
Oh, Toby Kebbell's character they kept on referring to, so like that was one.
I don't know.
I forget. Oh yeah, it was like Chapel or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, because they kept
Chapel or
on talking about
something.
the note and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. But
that's
like
true.
going back to
But
this
he
film,
wasn't even a character. Like whatever.
yeah, going back to this film, I did kind of like how they had like lives outside of this, so you could see the importance to this mission, but also to their families.
Mhm.
So it does make it a lot more tragic. I forget the actor's name. He's been in tons of stuff. The Asian American actor, the Japanese
I think
guy.
his name is Hiroyuka Sanado, I think.
Yeah. I really liked that interaction that he had with his wife having the baby.
And it was a really difficult birth, too.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, like, when I was in the military, and I've heard of, like, other situations using technology to, like, have that interaction with your wife, it's really hard. I've seen guys have to deal with the fact that they can't be with their wives when they're in labor, and, like, as a guy, and as somebody who has thought about having children at some point, that is something that, like, touches me. His character was very interesting, and there was a scene in the movie where he was about to do something stupid, and I can't say that I've never seen this before, but this was the first time that I ever noticed a character get ready to do something stupid and then realize that they shouldn't do it all in one sweep.
Yeah, especially not in these sort of survivalist slasher-esque kind of film.
Yeah, like he's in the container and he's thinking about the sleeping chamber thing that he locked himself into, and he's thinking about getting out of there, but he doesn't know where Calvin is. And so he's getting ready to open it, and he's thinking about, you know, his kid and everything like that, and then he doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Later, when they set up that there's like a rescue mission coming, that was protocol that they made themselves. He did not know that.
Right, exactly what I was saying, though. He didn't know.
Yeah.
He thought it was he was a rescue mission, which would make sense.
Yeah, it would make total sense. They haven't had comms and all this kind of stuff, so, like, why wouldn't a rescue mission
NASA's
come?
not just going to sit there and be like, oh, we don't have communication? We'll leave it alone.
Yeah, they would at least attempt, and I don't know if they would, like, launch, you know, their shuttle or, you know, like, whatever. But this was something that they put in place, and it seemed really smart, you know, and also, you know, when Jake Gyllenhaal said that he's going to fly off as far into space, because, like, even though it's deprived of oxygen, we still don't know enough about the creature to know how long it can last without it.
Yeah, at one point they do say it can, like, hold oxygen in for a while, but not, like, unlimitedly.
Right, but, like,
the same way a human being can hold their breath, you know, it's not that out there of an idea.
Yeah, I'm there are certain creatures that are non-amphibious that can hold their breath underwater for very long, extended periods of time.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it was all pretty consistent, and I like the fact that in the movie, things that would normally be stupid actually made sense. Like, why would you ever untether yourself and throw yourself to another part of the space station? Well, if you have an alien on top of you and you're literally gonna drown, and that's the only option, you would do that. That makes sense. You know, basic things like that where it's like, it's really not stupid. It makes sense. At least in context. I didn't see anything in this movie nearly as dumb as the end of The Martian with the Iron Man glove thing. Like, nothing in this movie was at that level. And we give The Martian a pass.
And I get that people might draw parallels with here's this little thing, let's touch it, because when he was with that, but, like, at that point in time, like, how would he know that was threatening?
Well, he wasn't threatened by it, I think, for almost 20 days. It had been a really long time, and you could tell, even though they didn't develop a lot of other character, you could tell he was getting attached to this life form because it's so tiny and it's so cute, and he has been with it for sustained, prolonged periods of time without an issue. So he's sort of overcome that initial, it's cautious, we don't know what it'll do thing, because as far as he's concerned, he's, like, raising it. It actually makes sense that would happen. It's not like it was initially this size and it initially acted this way, and the very first thing he did was he poked it and then he grabbed his hand and broke it in half.
Yeah, plus, like, this life form hasn't shown any sign of aggression before.
Mm-hmm.
And like, given its size and the fact that it doesn't have any sort of anything to establish that it's, you know, a carnivorous creature or like whatever, like it doesn't have teeth, you know, nothing. So like,
and that's something really rare. We don't see creatures that aren't supposed to be creepy that don't have teeth. Like, even in Shin Godzilla, they make a point of how he has like really shitty teeth, which makes sense because he doesn't eat. But why the fuck does he have teeth?
yeah, same thing with the aliens. The aliens have teeth.
Yeah, but like, do they need teeth?
No.
So why? It's just because it looks creepy.
Exactly.
But in this movie, they didn't do that, and everybody called it a shot of, like, a little thing of Jello or chewing gum, and I was like, no, it's octopus, damn it. And also, it behaved a lot like an octopus, which was really interesting. I've heard, you can see tons of videos on YouTube of, like, octopus being able to work themselves into really tiny places, or they're stuck in a jar with the lid twisted, and they're able to twist it off and escape. I heard a story
I love when they do that, though. They get out, but then they go back into the jar because they like being in that, like, really enclosed space.
Yeah, but they like having the choice.
Yeah.
But I did hear of a story of an octopus at a zoo that was actually able to get out of its tank, get into another tank, eat the life in that tank, and then get back into its own tank. And it took a while before anyone could figure out that that's what it was doing. That behavior actually does match this creature a lot. It's not that weird or bizarre or like... I'm not saying this movie's perfect.
No,
I'm not even saying it's a masterpiece, but like it's a solid 75%.
Yeah, it's a lot better than I expected the movie to be, and it's a lot smarter than the reviews and some of the comments that I've heard play it out to be. I mean, It Follows is a movie that breaks its own rules within the context of the movie, and yet that movie is like a 9.
It doesn't do anything interesting.
I get that some people like the fact that it subverts some of the tropes of horror films, like about like the virgin. Like
it doesn't subvert any of that though, because it's still all about punishing people for having sex, and not even like skanky sex, like really prim, awkward sex. Like
partly and partly not. Like you have to have sex in order to.
But exactly, it's like partly and partly not. But like one of the things in It Follows that kills me is this thing could look like anything at all, and that never comes into play. It's always insanely conspicuous. Even like the one time on the soccer field when like you see the soccer player coming by, you know that's not it, so that fake out doesn't work. Even the scene where they're on the beach and it looks like one of them, they don't look anything alike and they don't behave anything alike, and they can always tell which one's which. So it doesn't do anything. The only time that ever came into play was during the finale when it looked like her dad was messing with her emotionally, but you don't even find that out until it's over.
Yeah, but then like all this stuff about like you can shoot it and electrocute it and all that kind of stuff, I'm just like, whatever.
It's dumb.
Yeah, that's the part that I was talking about, like where it breaks its own rules. This movie doesn't really break its own rules. It stays by the rules that it sets. And I get that, like, you can watch a movie like this and say, hey, you know, this doesn't follow what I know about science and all that kind of stuff. First of all, it's Alien, which is not like a total forgiveness, which isn't totally forgiving the film. But I will say that, like, you know, this film doesn't go incredibly outside of the realm of plausibility,
like
which
I
is
said,
like
it behaves like things we've seen on Earth.
And for me personally, this movie creeped me out. This movie had me at the edge of my seat, which is something that I can't say about most horror films nowadays.
Well, it didn't really scare me. I'm not gonna have like nightmares about it tonight. But yeah, I was kind of like, what is it gonna do next? Where is it gonna go? Who's gonna get hurt? And I will say a lot of the deaths, like every single death actually felt really earned. And I will also say, because I haven't seen the trailers of this film, like I didn't watch really any trailer except like the intro to like one trailer. It's possible that the trailer ruined people's experiences with the film. Not really, because all of the trailers I saw only showed the hand thing. Okay. They didn't even show the rest of that scene. They really only showed it like gripping the hand and breaking it. And the only thing besides that they actually show, besides, you know, some of the earlier stuff with them like sitting around and eating, or like him with his little iPad, hey, my kid was born. The only other thing they showed was Jake Gyllenhaal reading Goodnight Moon. That's it. That was all of any of the trailers. They didn't show any of the other action. They didn't show any of the death. They didn't show any of the plot points. They didn't show the whole thing of, like, they're coming to send us into deep space and kill us. Oh, we're descending into Earth's orbit. It could get out. None of that was in any of the trailers. So, like, that's one of those things that I don't understand, too, because, like, it's not like they gave it away.
I kind of wish more movies did that.
Yeah, like, the trailers actually made me want to see this movie and then made watching the movie rewarding. It's not that hard. But something I do have to say is I have to bite my own tongue a little bit because I've said on the show many times that actors don't sell movies anymore the way they used to. They still have, like, some buying power, like, to sell tickets, but in general, audiences seem to be a lot more receptive to movies that don't have big stars in them, and movies with big stars in them aren't always going to make bank.
Well,
and this
it's
movie
not...
seems to be actually a case against my argument, because half of the reviews that I saw that hated this movie said that it didn't make any sense, while failing to point out why it didn't make any sense, or said that it was just an alien clone, which, fair enough. The other half said, I didn't like it because I didn't know who the main character was. I didn't like it because I came to see Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal, and Jake Gyllenhaal was quiet for most of the movie, and spoilers, Ryan Reynolds dies really early, so I didn't know who to root for, and I didn't know who the main character was, and I didn't like that. It's like, oh. I don't agree with that, but, like, that does go against my theory that apparently that's why a lot of people went to go see this movie, was for the two of them, and then they became very unhappy with that, so.
Well, I will say that in cases like these, when it's something a little bit different, now being different in something the same, like, Alien came out in the 70s, like, you know, which is not to say that making a clone of it essentially is, you know, being original or anything like that. But I will say that we're not getting a ton of movies like this. And I think that the whole star power thing that people had issue with, I still think that's a small minority. I think more people are interested in franchises. Now, this isn't a franchise. It might be, you know, given the end of the film and everything like that. But, like, when I talk about star power not selling a movie, I think it's stuff like, you know, like superhero movies. Like, honestly, you don't need the big stars. I mean, probably outside of Robert Downey Jr. To sell your movies.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at Disney movies. They're continuously trying to get more and more lesser known actors or completely unknown actors.
Yeah, but also,
and they're
like,
pulling it off fine because everybody's gonna go see it.
But I'll question that, and part of it might have to do with reviews and Rotten Tomatoes, because I know that studios are kind of pushing against Rotten Tomatoes and trying to prevent pre-screens and all that kind of stuff from happening, which there's a video, I'll try to find it and put a link in the description, but there's a video that talks about, like, the 10 reasons why, you know, a movie's gonna suck, and, like, one of the biggest reasons is because they put a review embargo so that, like, nobody can review the film
until like a day or two before.
Yeah. I also find it really suspect when a movie has 100%, but, like, you don't actually have official reviews for the movie.
Yeah.
So they are trying to bank on that Rotten Tomatoes 100%, and look at Annabelle. Those reviews went down and down and down.
And that's happened a lot with, like, bad movies, including Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and I will say with those films, there are cases where there are certain subset of fans that
will love it no matter what. And
yeah.
Okay, that's fine if that's what you like. Okay.
I honestly, after seeing this film, I would like to see more films that don't treat their audience like idiots, don't treat their characters like idiots, because like, this isn't Prometheus. This is not Prometheus. Prometheus, literally, I mean, you can sin about almost every minute of that movie.
And especially in terms of the stupid people letting the aliens do things because they're stupid thing.
Yeah, I mean, the only smart character in that movie is Michael Fassbender, but like, I don't think that guy can.
That doesn't count.
Yeah.
And also, it's Michael Fassbender. He's never been terrible. He's
Yeah,
been
but
in plenty of terrible movies, but he's never been terrible.
But that is one of those cases where he's smart only because the script tells him to be smart.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas in this movie, everybody was actually. I always think this is way scarier. Like movies like Inside, the French horror film. It's so much more terrifying when somebody does the right thing all the time and it's still gonna get you. That is way scarier than, oh, well, that would never happen to me because that person was stupid. Who would do that?
Yeah. One movie that really terrified me is a movie called Deliverance. I'm sure plenty of you have heard about it, but one of the things that really scares me about the movie, don't worry, I'm not going to give anything away, but it's the concept of, well, you might be doing the right thing, but you're in the wrong area. So your word doesn't matter compared to their word.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a terrifying concept.
Yeah.
This has been a really good year for horror films. And
I don't know that I would count this as a horror film, no.
I would count it in that realm of horror films. I use the word horror very liberally.
I mean, I think it. Okay, sure.
Shock, disgust, all that kind of stuff. It has a lot of elements that you could argue that this is a horror film. And that being said, stuff like Get Out and like Raw, which is
one of the best films of the year. Yes, it is.
A lot of horror films this year have been playing with genre a lot. And that's one of the things I love about horror films. Horror films don't really have to adhere to specific rules. They can kind of do whatever they want. And that's kind of one of the things that I enjoyed about this movie. Even though clearly it's an alien clone.
Yeah, it is. But for an alien clone, like, Alien is not cloning Alien well at this point, so why not let somebody else try it? Honestly. It's like when you argue, like, oh, Bruno Mars sounds too much like the Police. Well, the Police aren't making music right now, so sure.
Yeah, and I could understand that people might have the complaint that, oh, well, why don't we do something new?
Absolutely, we should do something new, which is why this is not a great movie. Great, 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5. But it's a solid 75%. It does what it's doing well. It's entertaining, it's, it's suspenseful, it's well made, it's a good script, has a couple problems. Solid, good film.
And if you thought differently about the film, that's okay.
Please tell us why, though, because I'm really interested to see beyond just like the half star, this movie sucked, period, and review thing. Like, what is it that people don't like about it? Because I will say the fact that nobody can really get attached to the characters is a really big problem in the movie. That's a pretty big one, especially because you can tell some stuff is trying to go on. Like, there's clearly a lot of romantic tension between the British chick whose name I don't know and Jake Gyllenhaal whose name I don't know. They're clearly having something go on, but how, why, when, what, anything? I
did like the fact that they weren't fucking. Which
I like that too, but you can do something there to make it work besides having them read a picture book together once the movie's already almost over. You can do better than that.
Yeah.
On the other side, at least they didn't actually engage in very many tropes.
Yeah, outside of, like we've said before, outside of emulating Alien.
Like, especially because a lot of the trailers actually made it look like this is one of those, of course the black man dies first. No. Oh, that good-looking, suave, like, really well-known actor who's totally bringing in a lot of bucks? He's the first one gone. Oh, the person with, like, a family? He's actually not the first person to die either. And guess what? He actually does things. It's actually really important for him to be there. It's actually important for everybody to be there. Except for Ryan Reynolds. He's, like, the least important one, so he's the first one to go. But At least like everybody actually does things, and there is a sort of we must follow the chain of command thing.
And yeah, I will just say that, like, think about it for a minute, and come up with some reasons if you don't like the film, or if you do like the film, tell us why you like the film as well.
I will say too, no assholes in this movie.
Ryan Reynolds.
He's not an asshole though. There's no point where he's like, fuck all you guys, I'm gonna save myself.
I mean, he did make that comment where he's like, I think that baby has blue eyes. Are you really the father?
That's a joke. Like,
yeah.
Yes, I don't like him as a person, but he's not a dick face.
Yeah, it's not like Dr. Mann in fucking
Yep.
Interstellar. Who like purposely compromises the mission for no real reason
other than the villain is man.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, there was none of that. There was no Steve Buscemi trying to sabotage the mission in Armageddon.
Yeah, like nobody was an asshole in this movie.
Yeah, they were all working together. There was never. I did actually find this interesting because this is one of the few horror films that I've seen where there isn't inner conflict between the characters.
Yeah, it's not like the evil thing, whatever it is, supernatural or
because
or whatever,
even
is driving a wedge between people and is like the foil for them to unveil their real dark human nature.
Yeah, because even in Alien, there was a lot of conflict with the fact that the doctor on board was a machine. Mm-hmm. And, all those elements. So, that's one of the things that I say that I thought the movie was interesting because it took those elements but decided, hey, let's ground it a little bit more. Let's take away some of the more fantastical elements of Alien and kind of explore that. Mm-hmm. So put in the comments below what you think. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support us, we have a Patreon.
Next up, Dunkirk.
Thanks for listening.